Hello viewers, welcome to our channel. We are discussing AP and TS set previous mathematics questions and answers on the topic probability and statistics. The question is, in cluster analysis, the dissimilarity measure equation D suffix AB is equal to minimum of D suffix Ij, where I belongs to capital A and J belongs to capital B, is known as. The multiple options are A. Dendrogram, B. Complete linkage clustering, C. Single linkage clustering, D. Both B and C. Okay, my dear viewers, let us see the solution. The first option, dendrogram. Yes. What is a dendrogram? A dendrogram is a diagram representing a tree. That means it doesn't represent any equation in the cluster analysis. So option A is wrong. My dear viewers, we will learn some more about this dendrogram to learn about the complete linkage clustering and single linkage clustering. Yes, the name dendrogram derives from two ancient Greek words known as dendron, which means a tree, and gramma, which means drawing mathematical figure. The results of hierarchical clustering are usually represented in a dendrogram. Okay. This diagrammatic representation is frequently used in different contexts. Like in statistics, the well-known hierarchical clustering, which is also called as hierarchical cluster analysis, or in short form HCA, is a method of cluster analysis which seeks to build a hierarchy of clusters. Strategies for hierarchical clustering generally falls into two types. One is agglomerative. This is a bottom-up approach where each observation starts in its own cluster and pairs of clusters are merged as one moves up the hierarchy. And the second one is divisive. This is a top-down approach where all observations start in one cluster and splits of these clusters are performed recursively as one moves down the hierarchy. In general, the merges and splits of the clusters are determined in a greedy manner. The results of hierarchical clustering are usually represented in a dendrogram. Now, my dear viewers, we will see what is complete linkage clustering. Yes, complete linkage clustering is one of several methods of agglomerative hierarchical clustering. At the beginning of the process, each element is in a cluster of its own. The clusters are then sequentially combined into larger clusters until all elements end up being in the same cluster. The method is also known as farthest neighbor clustering. Yes, the result of the clustering can be visualized as a tree diagram called dendrogram, which shows the sequence of cluster fusion and the distance at which each fusion took place. Some more information about this complete linkage clustering. At each step, the clusters separated by the shortest distance are combined. In complete linkage clustering, the link between two clusters contains all element pairs and the distance between clusters equals the distance between those two elements, one in each cluster. Please remember, that are farthest away from each other. The shortest of these links that remains at any step causes the fusion of two clusters whose elements are involved. Now we will define what is complete linkage clustering. We define the complete linkage function mathematically as a distance function d of x comma y between the clusters x and y such that d of x comma y is equal to maximum of d of x comma y, where the element x belongs to the cluster capital X and the element y belongs to the cluster y. Therefore, where d of x comma y is the distance between the elements x and y, and capital X and capital Y are two sets of elements or clusters. Therefore, complete linkage clustering gives the dissimilarity measure equation as in terms of maximum, but we need minimum, so option B is wrong. Now we will see about the single linkage clustering. Yes, single linkage clustering. It is one of several methods of hierarchical clustering. It is based on grouping clusters in bottom-up fashion like agglomerative clustering. At each step, combining two clusters that contain the closest pair of elements not yet belonging to the same cluster as each other. And now a drawback of this method is that it tends to produce long thin clusters in which nearby elements of the same cluster have small distances, but elements at opposite ends of a cluster may be much farther from each other than two elements of other clusters. This may lead to difficulties in defining classes that could usefully subdivide the data. In single linkage clustering, the distance between two clusters is determined by a single pair of elements. Those two elements, one in each cluster, please remember, that are closest to each other. The shortest of these pairwise distances that remain at any step causes the two clusters whose elements are involved to be merged. This method is also known as nearest neighbor clustering. The result of the clustering can be visualized as a tree diagram called a dendrogram, which shows the sequence in which clusters were merged and the distance at which each merge took place. Now we define the single linkage function mathematically as a distance function d of x comma y between the clusters x and y such that d of x comma y is equal to minimum of d of x comma y, where x belongs to capital X and y belongs to capital Y, where d of x comma y is the distance between the elements x and y, and capital X and capital Y are two sets of elements or clusters. My dear viewers, the above information gathered from the Google Wikipedia. Please remember, yes, single linkage clustering means d of x comma y is equal to minimum of d of x comma y, where x belongs to capital X, y belongs to capital Y, which represents in cluster analysis the dissimilarity measure equation, which is known as single linkage clustering. C is the right option. Obviously D is wrong because both B and C are not correct. Only C is the right option. So D is also wrong. Yes. Which option is the correct option, my dear viewers? Yes. C is the right option. Okay. Thank you, my dear viewers, for watching our videos and for your kind support. Please subscribe our channel to get solutions for more questions. Thank you once again.